Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. You're watching NDTV. The Pahalgam terror attack has shaken the soul of the valley, and as India mourns the loss of 26 innocent lives, and Kashmir stands united against terror and defiant that it will not fall back into the cycle of violence it has fought for years. What we saw today being exhibited in the special session of the Jammu and Kashmir Assembly was exactly that. The political class in Jammu and Kashmir has condemned the attack in one voice, calling it an assault on the spirit of Kashmiriyat, on the Indian Constitution, and also on the dream of unity and peace. In fact, the Chief Minister of J&K, Omar Abdullah, has also said that he has no words to console the victims and family members. And in fact, he also read out the names and states of each of the 26 victims of the terror attack in Pahalgam. He read out the names today. And Mr. Abdullah also said that the security in Jammu and Kashmir is not under the elected government, but as the Chief Minister, as also the Tourism Minister, he had welcomed the tourists to Jammu and Kashmir, and as a host, it was his responsibility to ensure their safe return. I could not ensure their safe return, and I have no words to apologize. Let's first listen into what he said today.
मेजबान होते हुए मेरी जिम्मेदारी थी कि सही सलामत मैं इन्हें यहाँ से वापस भेजूं, नहीं भेज पाया और माफी मांगने के अल्फाज नहीं थे। क्या कहता हूं उनको, उन छोटे बच्चों को जिन्होंने अपने वालिद को खून में लपेटा हुआ देखा, उस नेवी अफसर की विधवा को जिनको शादी हुए ही चंद दिन हुए थे। हम में से कोई इस हमले के साथ नहीं है। इस हमले ने हमें अंदर से खोखला किया, लेकिन स्पीकर साहब, पहली मर्तबा 26 साल में मैंने जम्मू कश्मीर में किसी हमले के बाद लोगों को इस तरह बाहर आते हुए नहीं देखा। मिलिटेंसी, टेरर, दहशत, आतंकवाद, इसका खात्मा तब होगा जब लोग हमारे साथ होंगे, और ये स्पीकर साहब उस मौके की शुरुआत है।
But beyond these resolutions and words of solidarity, there are these big questions. Will this collective outrage translate into lasting unity on the ground in Jammu and Kashmir? Has the terror attack exposed deep fractures of mistrust and fear within the Kashmiri society, or has this tragedy in fact forged a much stronger resolve amongst people of this union territory to reclaim peace, and has this resolve become stronger than it was before? That's the question that we are asking tonight. We are being joined by Salman Nisami, who's the chief spokesperson of Democratic Progressive Azad Party. He's also a Kashmiri activist. We also have Firdaus Tak, who is former MLC and spokesperson of the PDP. We will also be joined by the spokespersons of the BJP and NC in just a bit. Mr. Nisami, to you first, how did you see the special session that was convened today? Because it just showed that Kashmiri society is speaking in one voice. But beyond these words, what can we expect in the coming years? Because this clearly seems to be a turning point for the society, socially, economically. How is Kashmir going to cope with something like this?
Well, I have witnessed conflict since my childhood, from stone pelting to terror attacks in Kashmir. Earlier, people would come out in support of terrorists, and today, for the first time in my life, I saw people protesting against terrorism. A united voice is emerging from Kashmir, saying that we are against terrorism. And secondly, the true spirit of Kashmiriyat was seen when Sayyid Adil, who sacrificed his life for the tourists, he fought against those terrorists, and sadly and unfortunately he got killed. So even how locals fed and shielded those tourists in Kashmir. So this is a real example of Kashmiriyat and Insaniyat. We must not give it a religious angle. It's not about Hindu or Muslim. Today, even the Assembly, as you mentioned, showed its protest against the terror attack. So everyone in J&K is upset, and they are speaking in one voice that we don't support, we don't encourage these terrorists. So we strongly condemn it. The people actually here are fed up from terrorism. We want peace, we want development, we want progress. It's coming from my heart. We have always, Pakistan has always conspired against Kashmiris. They have always used Kashmiris for their own politics, for their own benefits, and for their own vote bank. So it is the time to show unity. There should be unity among all the people across all religions from India, and only then we can confront our enemy nation and give a strong response.
Okay, Reanbir Singh Patania, who is an MLA, he's a legislator and also spokesperson of the BJP, joins us. We have Ifra Jan, spokesperson NC, also joining us. Thank you both of you for joining me on this broadcast. Mr. Firdaus Tak, let me also ask you this question. I was listening to what PDP chief and Mehbooba Mufti also spoke about. You know, she issued a strong appeal to the centre, and she has urged that the centre adopts a more restrained and targeted approach in response to what happened in Pahalgam. She's also talked about reports of mass arrests and, you know, the demolition of homes that we are witnessing now. And she said that these kind of actions, indiscriminate action, could also deepen the divide amongst the people of society. But how does one also fight the ideology that's based on radicalism? Because, you know, the problem in Kashmir is just not a security challenge. There's something much more than that. How do you see that being tackled?
Well, the killings in Kashmir, am I audible?
Yes, sir. Please go on.
Yeah, the killings in Pahalgam has been largely seen not as just an incident where human lives are lost, but it has also depicted that we have a deep humanitarian crisis in this part of the world. You have to appreciate that Kashmir has connected with the pain of this nation, the pain of this country. They understand what a woman undergoes when she loses her husband, or what a child undergoes when he loses his father or brother. They have connected with the pain, and rightly said so that this is for the first time in last several decades that people have stood up against the terrorism. But at the same time, you have to understand that this is a very critical moment. While we are appreciating that people of Jammu and Kashmir, irrespective of their political ideologies, have stood up and condemned these incidents. But at the same time, during all these last few days, the way security forces have resorted to demolishing of the houses, and I must pause here and say that these are not the houses of the terrorists which are being blown up, but these are the houses of family members of those people who have said to be the operating terrorists in Jammu and Kashmir. These families have no fault of their own. This is where we have to create a dividing line. The guilty must be punished, and he must be punished with the iron fist. But we have to differentiate between an innocent life and a guilty person. Until and unless we don't create that differentiation, we don't deliver justice based on that differentiation, I think we are going to further alienate this society, which has never been benefit for the people of either the Jammu and Kashmir or the country.
Right. Mr. Patania, how do you view this request, both by Omar Abdullah and also Mehbooba Mufti, that, you know, it's important to punish the guilty but also protect the innocent, because, you know, there's a dilemma here. We have lost lives. There's a need to send out the right kind of message so that it doesn't happen again. But at the same time, it's also important in a democracy that we don't really punish the innocent. How do you see this?
Yes. First of all, a very good evening to everybody on board. You see the entire crux of the matter and the chronology and the context in which it has happened. This is an incident which has shocked the conscience of not only the victims, not only Jammu and Kashmir, not only India, but the entire world, the way these videos have been played. And for the first time, from Kashmir up to Kanyakumari, we have seen a string of protests. Not even a single leader has shied away from condemning this dastardly act. We have seen the main Mirbai Sahab. He is condemning the terrorism, and a prayer meeting in Jama Masjid Srinagar. We have seen the Grand Mufti in New Delhi. He issues a fatwa against these terrorists. So it is in the midst of all this, I think we should not look for certain ins and outs. Now, I admit it, and I have no qualms in saying no innocent should be punished. But why this sealed and under the cover sympathy for those people who are virtually detrimental to the public peace, who have taken the rule of law on a hostage, who have virtually tried to spoil Jammu and Kashmir? Because this tourism and this tourist season, this is the basic bread and butter of the people of Jammu and Kashmir. So there's a Chinese proverb: you hit one and you scare 1,000. This is what they have done. They have admitted. So if any innocent has been done, I don't have. I have full sympathies for it. But my respectful submission for each and everybody on board, sir. Sir, please stop this sympathy. Your leader did a protest demonstration at Lal Chowk. We praised it. We appreciated it. We took it in the right earnest. Today, National Conference brought a resolution on the floor of the Assembly. 2 days earlier, they brought the resolution on same lines in the all-party Baitak also. We were also there. But for some small and minor amendment, we welcome this. So we need to give a message. We need to have a message very loud and very clear.
So it's about a loud message. Ifra Jan,
we stand tall. We stand united.
Okay.
Nothing,
Ifra Jan,
there's also...
Yes, sir. Ifra, there's also this emerging sense of unity that people who are outside Kashmir are also, looking at right now. Ifra, what will it take for Kashmir and for everybody else to survive this pressure of violence and political manipulation that, people in the valley have witnessed for several years? In some ways, it's very difficult to see these protests against terrorism and assume that there's going to be complete unity against terror, because there's also crackdown on houses of terrorists happening. There's also, talk that some locals could have been involved in this. How are you going to look at, ensuring that there is complete unified force against terror, and also there are people who don't get drawn to that ideology?
You see, Vasundhara, when the Mumbai attacks happened, I do not remember any such questions being asked of a common Maharashtrian. When the Delhi Parliament attacks happened, we understood that we had the foreigners who came in and tried to harm the Parliament of India. I did not see any such questions being asked of a common Delhi wala, how involved is a common Delhi person in Parliament elections, because we understand a common Delhi person has nothing to do with that. We understand a common Maharashtrian has nothing to do with the foreign terrorists coming and blowing up and trying to create problems in Taj. But somehow it becomes so much more easier to ask these questions of Kashmiris who for that matter came out in lakhs. We saw protests from Kulgam to Banihal. Not a single town, not a single mohalla was there where a protest was not organized. Like, how loud does a Kashmiri have to be? How many times in a day does a common Kashmiri like me, who has nothing to do with this, have to come out and say, look, I am not a terrorist, look, I am not involved in this? I think we need, instead of putting the onus on a common Kashmiri and saying, batao, you guys are not going to be involved, batao, there's going to be no local involvement. When it comes to local involvement, if you look at 4 terrorists, the police itself says that out of the 4 terrorists, it was 3 foreign terrorists who have done this, and all 3 are foreign and all 3 are Pakistani. And all 3 are hiding in a forest. So it's not even that they're hiding in somebody's house. The police themselves are saying that they're hiding somewhere in the forest and they're trying to look for them in the forest. But the onus, when we constantly ask these questions of common Kashmiris, for instance, we create a certain degree of xenophobia against them in other states. The results of which we are seeing when a common Kashmiri students who have had nothing to do with it, who are probably sitting in their library and studying, have no idea, have probably never visited Pahalgam in last 5-7 years, they were getting beaten up. Interestingly, when today we passed the resolution, unequivocally condemning the Pahalgam terror attack. It was not even a terror attack. It's probably one of the worst attacks we have seen. Barbaric terror attack. No words of condemnation can be enough. But we also passed a resolution for those Kashmiri students who around the India, who are all around from Punjab to, and it's not just the BJP governments, unfortunately, who in Punjab, who in Himachal Pradesh, who in Uttar Pradesh, who in other states are getting targeted. So I think when we constantly say what is the local involvement, we need to ask what is the local involvement when a common Kashmiri gets attacked, how much of a common UP wala is involved in it, how much of a common Maharashtrian is involved in attacking when they get attacked in Maharashtra. But when we talk of local involvement in extremism, I think this is a question that should be asked to everyone. This should be a question that should be asked when lynchings happen. This should be a question when we have hate speeches happening everywhere. But today, Kashmiris have demonstrated by coming out in lakhs. I don't know if you saw the visuals of the Hartal that we organized.
Yes.
Not a single shop, Vasundhara ji, not a single shop was opened. Lakhs were closed. What more does a Kashmiri need to do to completely come out and say, this is not in my names. This is not something we accept. And these killers need to be brutally punished.
Okay, that's a very important point. Mr. Patania, would you like to respond to that, sir? Because a lot of us have also been, questioning, local complicity, because, that there's this feeling that something like this cannot happen without the involvement of a few locals. And like Ifra is saying, that also puts a lot of pressure on Kashmiris, and it also makes a lot of them living outside the state vulnerable. What would you have to say, sir?
You see, very, very clear and very categorical. Such an incident, could it have happened? Could it have been orchestrated without local support? Very simple question. The answer is no. One, and I again restart on the same note, that political lines must blur. Once such national tragedies are, the political lines must blur. Small politics should go. You, my leader friend, you must toe the line of your leader. What Farooq Saab said and what Omar Saab said on the floor of the assembly also. Please don't try to confuse the things. You see, India fight against terror. This is let it as a point that India, with zero tolerance towards terrorism, as the very spirit of its policy, ultimately India wins, democracy wins, peace wins, Jammu and Kashmir wins, and down with the terrorism, down with such acts, such acts which don't have any meaning, which don't have
Connection
any
adjustment.
don't have any justification.
Is this,
I used it earlier also.
Right.
Not at all.
Yeah. Yes,
not,
sir. Please
not
go
at all. Not at all any clash of ideas or something. This is simply hate, and hatred. And we need to take care of it. We need to get rid of the people of Jammu and Kashmir problem.
Okay, Ifra, would you like to respond to that? Because he's also saying that, it's a lot about prosperity, progress that J&K has made in the last few days, and it's important to, ensure that is not stalled.
You see, Vasundhara ji, when we talk about the fallouts of this terrorism, and when people like Mr. Patania come and say, what about local support? Let's get it clear. This is not something I wanted to talk, but because now the conversation is going that way, I'll probably have to say it. When it comes to a common Kashmiri is more hit. His economic opportunities are more hit by this terror incident than anybody else in the state. So, when we say, probably it's a common Kashmiri who is doing it, why will a common Kashmiri ensure that his own livelihood is hit so bad? One needs to understand that nobody takes the hit of this more than the common Kashmiri, which is why a common Kashmiri was out condemning it. But unfortunately, Mr. Patania very rightly pointed out the unequivocal stand of National Conference in the Assembly, in the all-party meeting, in our media briefings, again this barbaric act of terror. But unfortunately, not once did Mr. Patania talk about those Kashmiri students who around India are at this point constantly calling us. In fact, the situation sometimes was so bad that we had to send out ministers to different states Ministers had to be, all the cabinet work was stopped. Ministers were sent to different states so that they could coordinate
Just want
with
to say a word of
ensuring
caution.
that these students were safely returned.
Okay.
So once, when we talk about political unity, I completely agree with Pathania.
be assured-
Okay.
Right now,
Just
we
to
could have been
interrupt you,
asking
Ifra, you've made
questions
your
on
point,
national
Mr. Pathania.
security.
Before I go to others, how will you respond to that, sir? Because this is
very
also an
small,
important
very
point.
small. Be
We all saw
assured,
Sakina
each and
Mattu going to
everybody-
different states. The vulnerability of a student community, whichever state they come from, that is something that is important to address. Do you feel there's one way of doing that?
Vasundhara, the response of the people across the country that had been just spontaneous, and we don't endorse it. If anybody has been tortured, anybody has been derided, but Bharatiya Janata Party stands committed to the gospel of rule of law. Be assured, no Kashmiri student, no Kashmiri trader, no Jammu and Kashmir resident residing in any part of the country will find any trouble. This is the spirit and the sentiment of the
did
Bharatiya
find
Janata
trouble,
Party.
sir.
When we will ensure,
They were
Bharat Sarkar will
beaten up.
ensure
They were
this issue has been
intimidated.
flagged
This
at the
did
right
happen.
quadrant. Be assured. Let everybody be assured. Not
This
even
did happen.
a fly will
Your
move.
assurances
No
are meaningless
inkling.
because
No
it did
trouble to each and
happen.
everybody. Everything will pass on peacefully.
It did happen.
And as the
It did
punchline
happen.
remain, India is united. India is responsible. This was an act towards division, but it has united us like never before.
Okay.
So India as united.
Let me go to the
everybody-
other guest now. Mr.
Please,
Nisami,
please.
will fear once again replace a sense of hope and faith that we saw amongst not just tourists but also Kashmiris, investors? How do you see this playing out economically and socially?
Well, the way the people of Jammu and Kashmir, especially Kashmir, are sad, and there are protests at every corner of Kashmir. They are saying that we are against terrorism. And I recently visited Tulip Garden in Srinagar, which was created by Ghulam Nabi Azad. So I saw that tourists were there in large numbers. Everybody was happy, be it taxi walas or the hotel owners. And a lot of people were happy. They were, economy was getting a boost. So I want to say that there is a narrative going on that locals, without local support, it was not possible. So recently in Chhattisgarh, I think 9 Indian soldiers were killed by Naxals. So we did not blame the entire Hindu community for the act of these Naxals. So why, when it comes to Kashmir, so entire Kashmiris are blamed that they are terrorists, sub Kashmiri terrorists. This is not right. So we should unite this time to give a strong message to Pakistan that there is no Hindu Muslim, even a Kashmiri Muslim sacrifice his life.
Mr. Firdaus, your closing remarks, sir.
Sorry?
Your closing remarks, what would you have to say? Because we're talking about how the civil society has come together, not just the civil society, actually political class, business community, everybody has come together to stand united to defend
Yes,
peace.
I believe that we must stand united against
Mr.
terrorism.
Firdaus,
There should be
your
no
chance to make your closing
religious
remarks, sir.
point to it, and no political blame game.
Yes, Mr.
This is not the time to blame each other.
The only thing I think, this is for the first time that I think all the panelists from different political parties are, what Mr. Pathania was saying, that Bharatiya Janata Party and its leadership from last couple of days, they have been on one side appreciating how Kashmiris stood up against the terrorism, but at the same time, they have been browbeating about this local sport. Definitely, yes, we shouldn't shy away from asking questions. And I strongly believe that responsibility has to be fixed and must rule.
Mr. Pathania, closing remarks before I go to Ifra.
No, I'm just concluding, please.
So I just have no time, Mr. Pathania.
I still believe that the local sport which Mr. Pathania is talking about is a fringe in Jammu and Kashmir, like those Hindutva forces across the country which are now attacking Muslims and boycotting Muslims in the name of
Okay, Mr. Pathania, your closing remarks, sir.
Though Jammu and Kashmir has been a complex issue, many blunders which the various regimes have done, but one blunder which has ultimately been undone, blood and water cannot flow together. That is the Indus Water Treaty. We welcome it. And this is a part of India's relentless fight against terror. We should believe the Sarkar, we should believe the establishment, we should believe the PMNHM, which the country, with the people of India,
Ifra, last 10 seconds for you. Yeah, please.
Virtually put their forth also.
Yes, Ifra. Yes, you'll have to unmute yourself.
when we look at the attack, Vasundhara ji, we very clearly see the victims were asked what their religion was. What it tells us clearly is that the ideology that people of one religion are different from people of another religion. People of one religion deserve different rights compared to people of different religion. This ideology at its heart has to be defeated, and extremism in itself has to be defeated.
Very valid
That is
point,
when
yeah.
we will eventually defeat
Absolutely.
terrorism.
I'm sorry,
Thank
completely out of time. Thank you all of you for joining me on this broadcast. The Pahalgam terror attack has outraged Jammu Kashmir, and today in fact Jammu Kashmir spoke in one voice in the Assembly. Terror will not break the spirit of Kashmiriyat nor the values that have been enshrined in our constitution. That's what the panelists have also been talking about. But beyond resolutions and words, there is this question of Kashmir's future and present. But that is something that we'll keep tracking closely in the coming days. With that, it's a wrap on the show. More news on the other side.